It's the end of an ordinary workday. A rider walks across the parking lot, puts on his helmet, and starts the bike. His navigation app shows two ways home. One is a crowded main road that would get him there in 20 minutes. The other winds around the edge of town, cuts through quieter roads, and takes almost an hour. He's tired. He says he wants to get home, and yet, without much hesitation, he chooses the longer road. To someone waiting for him, the decision may seem irresponsible. Maybe he cares more about riding than being with his family. Maybe he's avoiding chores. Maybe he just wants the thrill, the scenery, or an excuse to waste time. And if you ask him why he did it, he may not have a deeper answer. I just wanted to ride for a while. But what if the extra miles aren't really about the motorcycle? What if the road has become a psychological space between the person the world demanded all day and the person he is expected to become when he walks through the front door? Because sometimes taking the long way home isn't about arriving later. It's about finding something you need before you arrive. During the day, your attention is pulled in dozens of directions. Messages appear. Problems need solutions. People ask for answers. Even when you're sitting still, your mind keeps switching between unfinished tasks, old conversations, future obligations, and small decisions that never seem to stop. Then you get on a motorcycle. Suddenly the world becomes more immediate. The road surface matters. The distance between you and the car ahead matters. The curve approaching in the next few seconds matters. You notice the wind against your jacket, the vibration of the engine, the movement of your body, the changing temperature of the air. Your mind has less room to replay the argument from 3 hours ago. It has less room to rehearse what you should have said in a meeting. Writing doesn't necessarily erase those thoughts, but it can narrow your attention enough to interrupt them. The noise becomes quieter because the present moment becomes louder. Imagine someone leaving work after a difficult conversation with a supervisor. For the first few miles, the conversation keeps repeating in his head. He imagines better responses. He predicts what might happen tomorrow. His body is on the bike, but part of him is still standing in that office. Then the road begins to curve. His breathing changes. His grip loosens. He notices the sky getting darker and the cold air entering through the edge of his glove. At some point, without realizing it, he stops arguing with a person who is no longer there. This is one reason the longer road can feel restorative. It gives the mind enough time to shift from abstract tension to concrete experience. But the relief may come from something else, too. Choice. All day, someone else may have controlled the schedule. A manager decided what needed to be done first. A client changed the deadline. A family member needed an answer. A calendar determined when to eat, when to speak, when to hurry, and when to be available. Then, for a few miles, the rider chooses. He chooses the road. He chooses the pace. He chooses whether to turn left, keep going, stop for coffee, or take an exit that serves no practical purpose. There are still limits. Traffic laws exist, weather exists, fuel runs out. But inside those limits, the decision belongs to him, and that matters more than it seems. Human beings do not only need comfort, we also need to feel that some part of our life is self-directed. When that sense of autonomy disappears, even small choices can become emotionally powerful. The longer route may have value precisely because it is unnecessary. It doesn't improve productivity. It doesn't impress anyone. It doesn't need to be justified in a performance review. For a short time, the rider is doing something because he chose it, but the road offers more than attention and control. It can also create a space between identities. At work, you may be the employee, the manager, the contractor, the problem solver, or the person everyone calls when something goes wrong. At home, you may become the partner, the parent, the son, the daughter, the caregiver, or the person responsible for the next set of decisions. Both places may contain love. Both may contain meaning, but both can also contain expectations. The road between them is different. You have already left one role, but you have not yet entered the next. No one is asking you to explain yourself. No one needs an answer. No one is evaluating whether you are useful, patient, efficient, emotionally available, or responsible. For those miles, you are not completely defined by what you provide to other people. You are simply moving. That can make the ride feel less like transportation and more like a transition ritual. Some people sit in their car for 10 minutes before entering the house. Some take a long shower after work. Some walk around the block before dinner. Some stay in the garage after the engine is off. The behavior changes, but the need may be similar. The nervous system does not always shift roles as quickly as the body changes locations. You can leave the office in 20 minutes and still carry the office into your living room. The longer road may give you time to set one version of yourself down before picking up another. And when the ritual works, you arrive more present. You listen more carefully. You react less sharply. You feel less like the people at home are interrupting you, because part of the tension has already been released on the road. But this is where the meaning becomes more complicated. Because the same road that helps one person return can help another person avoid returning. Two riders may take the exact same route for completely different reasons. One chooses it because riding is pleasurable, grounding, and freely chosen. The extra time expands his life. The other chooses it because going home produces a feeling he does not want to face. Maybe there is conflict waiting behind the door. Maybe there is silence. Maybe there are responsibilities that feel endless. Maybe home is not dangerous or dramatic. Maybe it simply reminds him of a version of himself that feels trapped, disconnected, lonely, or permanently needed. In that case, the ride still brings relief. But the relief comes from postponement. When delaying the arrival reduces anxiety, the mind learns something simple. Keep riding. Take another exit. Stop somewhere unnecessary. Find a reason to stay out 10 minutes longer. The person may not consciously think, I am avoiding my life. He may genuinely believe he just enjoys the road, and he probably does enjoy it. That is what makes the pattern difficult to understand. A behavior can be pleasurable and protective at the same time. The real question is not whether the ride feels good. The question is what happens inside you when you think about ending it. On a healthy, restorative ride, there is often a natural point of completion. You feel calmer, your mind feels less crowded. You may even begin to look forward to arriving. The road has prepared you to return. But when the ride is functioning mainly as emotional avoidance, the destination begins to feel like a threat to the relief you have created. You feel irritated when you get close. You search for another turn. You resent the fact that the pause has to end. You may arrive physically but remain emotionally outside. This doesn't mean every long ride needs to be analyzed as a hidden cry for help. Sometimes a beautiful road is simply a beautiful road. Sometimes riding is a genuine source of joy, skill, curiosity, and connection. Not every habit is trauma. Not every delay is avoidance. But patterns become informative when you notice what comes before them and what remains afterward. Do you return more available for your life? Or do you return frustrated that you had to come back at all? Does the ride help you reconnect with people? Or does it make every non-riding part of life feel like an interruption? Are you choosing the long road because you love what happens there? Or because you cannot tolerate what happens when it ends? That question is uncomfortable because it changes the meaning of the motorcycle. It stops being only a hobby, a machine, or a symbol of freedom. It becomes a clue. Maybe what you find on the road is silence. Maybe it is competence. On the bike, your actions produce immediate feedback. You lean, adjust, respond, and feel capable in a way that your ordinary life rarely allows. Maybe it is presence. Maybe it is the rare experience of not being interrupted, judged, measured, or asked for anything. And perhaps the most important discovery is that the motorcycle did not create those needs. It simply gave them a place to exist. Once you name what the road provides, you can begin to notice where it is missing elsewhere. You may still take the long route. You may still enjoy every mile. But you can also ask whether silence, autonomy, and unstructured time have any place in the rest of your week. You can notice the moment when a restorative ritual turns into a refusal to arrive. You can pause before starting the engine and name what you are carrying. Not to eliminate the ride, not to turn it into another task. just to understand what you are asking the road to do for you. Eventually, the rider reaches home. He parks the bike, shuts off the engine, and remains seated for a few seconds. The sudden silence feels almost physical. From the outside, it looks like nothing happened. He simply took longer than necessary. But the distance may have allowed him to release the day, recover a sense of choice, and remember a version of himself that exists beyond deadlines and obligations. Or it may have delayed a conversation he still needs to have. Sometimes it is both. So perhaps the better question is not, why didn't he come straight home? Perhaps the question is, what did he need to find before he could walk through the door? Because some people are not taking the long way to escape their lives. They are searching the road for a version of themselves they can bring back. And if you have ever added miles to a trip because you weren't ready for it to end, share what you think you were looking for. Subscribe for more conversations about the hidden psychology inside ordinary behavior.